Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rainbow Goddess YouTube channel. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. As you may have noticed, we have a special guest. This is Chelsea Brienne. Chelsea is such a beautiful soul. I've known her for a few years now, and I'm just so blessed that she agreed to come on and talk with all of us here today. Chelsea actually just started up her own YouTube channel. And her channel is devoted to sharing wisdom and really grounded advice and helpful tools for those who are navigating their ascension journey. And I'm just so proud of Chelsea. And I've had the privilege of checking out her channel, and I just found it so beautiful and grounded and supportive. Yeah, so I wanted to invite Chelsea on here today to really share about what inspired her to create her channel and just all the beautiful offerings that she plans on bringing through. And yeah, so welcome, Chelsea. Thank you for being here.
Oh, hello, sister. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me onto your channel to have this conversation. I'm so blessed to have known Rosalie for almost 3 years now, and she's become such a beautiful sister and one of my best friends from the day we met, or I should say, months and months before we met. It was soul family connection at first sight, and it's just been so amazing having her in my life, having her as a beautiful inspiration, and just an amazing sister full of so much wisdom and light that she brings to my life and
Oh.
also to everyone around her. So I just love you, and I'm so
Oh.
happy to be here with you in this space.
You're gonna make me cry.
Oh, oh no, don't
Oh,
cry. Well, you
you're
can if
so
you
sweet.
want to.
Oh my God. I
Oh,
just love you so much.
this is
Yeah,
what we do.
I know. We just get like, ah. Oh, so sweet. Yeah, it really is such a blessing when you meet soul family and you just have that instant connection. And I just had to bring you on here because I've just been so excited about just all the beautiful insight that you've been bringing through. And I think it's so special because Chelsea has such a beautiful way of really simplifying some really maybe complex things. um, it's so perfect because her videos are like only, 10 to 15 minutes long, but you're able to really break down and simplify things in such a beautiful way. And I think a lot of people can benefit from that. I think one of the beautiful things that you spoke about on your channel is not everybody has, hours to dive into complex things or information. So, did you want to share a little bit about like the structure and just sort of the inspiration that came through for this channel?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on this journey of spiritual awakening or healing, whatever we want to call it, for a very long time, probably since 2009. So I found myself in many, many different like layers and systems and modalities for healing and awakening. And really, at this point in my journey, I am just going back to simplicity and back to presence and those very simple basics that we so often forget about when we've been so deep in this awakening journey for so many years. Um, and I feel it's important because those concepts are also relevant and applicable to like those of us who have been in this awakening for a decade or 2 decades, and also those who are maybe new to the journey. I just wanted to share things that like I would have appreciated in earlier years and things that I really am still learning from and implementing today.
Yeah, absolutely, sister. It's so beautiful and so relatable. I feel like when I tune into your videos, it kind of sounds like I'm getting, advice that you've really embodied. Like I can really feel when you share that you've really embodied and lived through some of those experiences, which is so helpful because you understand it firsthand. Whether it's like navigating your purpose, like what is my purpose, or like is this relationship for me? Like is this benefiting me, and is it in the highest for me to continue making that connection, or just things like that. I find it's so helpful to hear like how you approach it and how you navigate through that. And I feel like that could really help a lot of people who are just looking for clarity, or just maybe an understanding of like what should I do. It's so powerful.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I also, yeah, I agree. And I think it's also really important to bring these higher concepts and this level of awareness into like our everyday life, into what we're doing when we're at the grocery store, like making decisions about jobs or family and like relationships, like you said. Because I feel like we can so often separate like our spiritual journey and our human life. And I think I found the largest thing people have questions about are really just navigating everyday life.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so I mean, that's what I have the toughest time with. It's not so much like these higher spiritual concepts, like those are fun to play in. But
Yeah.
for me, like on an everyday basis, I'm wondering how to navigate just regular life. So yeah, I just really wanted to be able to give some advice and just some information for how to move through the awakening, like while going through your life and like decisions you're making. And yeah, and like you mentioned about the videos, I try to keep them short in just like 10, 15-minute segments because yeah, I know like we're all so busy, like most of us
Yeah.
have these lives with things scheduled from like morning to night. And um yeah, that's just honestly how they ended up. Like every video I record just ends up being about 10 minutes. So yeah, I guess I guess that's just what works for me.
So beautiful. Yeah, and I was just reflecting back on our journey. Me and Chelsea were able to meet the tribe together. We traveled to Colombia this, past year or so. And I found that was their message too, was that we needed to simplify. And I think that's a tendency during the awakening journey. We want to learn so much and take in so much information. And that's part of our like embodiment and integration. But I think there comes a point on the journey, and I think, Chelsea, you speak about this, where it's less about, picking up a book and trying to learn as much as we possibly can, and more about, peeling back the layers of things that, are just sort of creating clutter and confusion. And we're really about trying to, break down all of that, conditioning and information to get to the core of who we truly are.
It's funny you brought up us and our journey to stay with the tribe in Colombia.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, that was really when I began to feel like very, very deeply in my body.
Mhm.
Because, like you said, that was sort of the underlying current of our whole time with them. And the core of their message is being present and embodied in the human form and like being grounded here on the earth.
Mhm.
And yeah, I'm so grateful to them because
Yeah.
they really helped me in that process of coming back into the body. After we go through this awakening, we can end up really in our higher heart, the higher chakras and dimensions, and in our physical life, we're just a bit kind of like floaty.
Yeah.
We might not quite know what to do, where to go. Maybe we got the groceries. Maybe we cleaned up the kitchen. Like maybe we didn't because we're sort of like living in this space of such high like powerful frequencies. But
Yeah.
I feel like the real work and the real journey and purpose for a lot of us here is bringing those frequencies and that love into the body in an embodied way so that we can show up with that and hold that love and that field no matter where we are in life or what type of chaos we might be in. I feel like that is really the journey and the goal, like holding that love and that grace and those higher states of consciousness, no matter like what conflict or craziness arises, what suffering might arise, and just being able to come back to that place that resides inside of you.
Yes, that's so beautifully said, sister. And I feel so many of us are we're searching for that balance and groundedness. Many of us have gone through, such rapid, accelerated awakenings. And for many of us, it maybe created a lot of chaos and a lot of just stirring up things within our own lives. And I feel like now it's like, how do we find our footing, and how do we integrate the wisdom and the higher frequencies, and how do we bring it into the everyday while being able to still, physically create and be here and be embodied, and really live a life that aligns to us, aligns to our heart, aligns to our soul. It sounds simple, but it really isn't as simple as it sounds, though, right? Like, it's sometimes really difficult to balance everything and to feel in alignment with what it is we're creating, and while navigating all the different energies, all the different experiences out there, all the different things that there is available to us. Like, so my question maybe for you is like, what advice would you give someone who's really trying to like get back into their body, really ground in, and begin connecting with themselves on a deeper level, and you know becoming more in alignment with their soul?
Yeah, that's a really great question because like you said, it's simple at the core, but
Yeah.
it's also like really complex. There's so many layers to it. Like, how do we go about it? We have,
Yeah.
childhood trauma, we have like programming from education and society, we have things that maybe unconsciously we've taken on from social media, and just we have all of these things that are sort of just stacking up like layers, covering up our light and our connection to our own soul. And it's like eventually those layers get thick enough that we are left sort of with just kind of a small sense of who we are. And we may be functioning from all of these layers that have been placed over us from external sources. So I would say for me, what has been very helpful, or the most helpful in connecting to my soul without anything external, would be first, daily I always take the time to do a clearing process of my fields. And you can do this through breathing, you can do this through qigong. um, Maybe if you're more visual, you can do it through a meditation with bringing in some different lights and frequencies, but just a process to remove and disconnect you from any external sources, people, places, ideas that are not innately yours, and just really cleansing your field of everything that doesn't belong to you. So you have more space to bring in your own soul light. Um, because I think energetic hygiene is really key in this, because we have to be able to clear out from an energetic standpoint everything that isn't ours. And from that place, we can really get to recognize and know our own energy and our own soul.
So beautiful, sister. Yes, absolutely. It's such an important part. And I think as empaths as well, or highly sensitive people, that can be another layer that's hard to navigate, especially if we don't recognize that what we're experiencing or feeling isn't really coming from an internal source, and we're experiencing it from the external. But it can sometimes get sort of energetically entangled with our own feelings and thoughts. And so it's hard to distinguish, like, is this mine? Is this not mine? And, am I feeling overwhelmed because it's coming from, my own heart, or am I feeling overwhelmed because, I've just been in a crowded place and I was sort of sensing and picking up on the experiences of those around me. And so that can be really challenging for a lot of people. So I think it's beautiful, just like how you said, connecting in, through breathing. I know for myself, breathing has been a daily practice for me because I find it actually clears my entire channel. When I do breathing, I feel it connecting through all of the levels and layers, all the way up and all the way down. And I connect it into the earth. And when I'm sitting with the planet, especially, it just kind of happens. When you're sitting with the planet, it's like the earth supports you. And then when you breathe, it connects you.
Yeah, definitely. I love what you said about how the earth is really something that can support us in that, because there's actual like studies and scientific evidence of how like our bare feet on the ground can um, will increase like a sense of safety and stability, and just really help regulate the nervous system and take your body out of that fight or flight, and bring you back into the parasympathetic state just by like standing barefoot on the ground for even 5 minutes. So yeah, I do the same thing. I think that's really, really effective because we forget about the beautiful earth and like nature, and we can go maybe days just being in a house or these like more artificial man-built structures, and just forget that there's this beautiful world of nature that exists to support us if we open ourselves to receive that. uh, I actually did a video in the forest the other day. I recorded one while I was on my walk because that's where I receive all of my like inspiration and ideas. It's like just the very act of being in nature just shifts your entire body and your mind into a more relaxed state where you're more open to just receive divine connection, receive yourself. Um, it's like putting yourself in a very pure environment that is not conflicting with like EMFs and like
Right.
noises and all of these things we're bombarded with um,
Yeah.
in our life. So yeah, I love that you said that, because I know for you and me both, being the little nature fairies we are, um, nature is one of those things that brings us back to ourselves and
Yes.
really just makes us feel like we're home.
Yeah, just as you were speaking, I was just like picking up on just how sometimes we can feel so disconnected and not understand why. Like, I was seeing some of our viewers like trying to connect to their hearts or trying to ground, but feeling like there's a disconnect. And so, what sort of ways do you think is helpful for people to be more open to feeling like the source connection, whether that be in nature, with their hearts, with their higher selves? Like, how do we open and receive like the communication, the wisdom that's being exchanged? Because sometimes people feel closed down because they're so bombarded. So how would one begin to align and feel more connected in their daily life?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and something I think so many of us try to cultivate, and it can be challenging when we start. But I feel for me, what has always been the most simple and efficient way is just presence and just sitting in silence alone, in a quiet space or even in a loud space, and just sitting in my heart space and allowing like everything around me to just be there. Just like allowing the noises, allowing like the inner chatter of my mind, like the fear, the worry I might have, and just allowing everything that exists to be there. And then I found that when you sit in this place long enough of just allowing, you can focus on your heart and the infinite intelligence, the divine, whatever you want to call it. And if you find that in your body, if you can find just like a glimpse of that in your heart, like somewhere in your body or your heart where you can feel that love, you can feel that light. Um, I think from that space of sitting with it, it will begin to grow and it's kind of dissipates and it helps unravel all of the mind chatter and all of the thoughts and slowly like the noises you're hearing that were annoying you like begin to fade into the background. um, your mind gets a little bit quiet because I really believe from being in that space of presence, everything that is not us is able to be brought to the light and unravel. So the more we do that, the more quickly we'll drop into that space, and the less mind chatter we'll have, the less worries, the less fears, and we'll just be able to more easily drop into that place of presence, and that remembrance. Because really, it's about the remembrance, right? And it's
Yeah.
about, um, it's not really about learning anything new or finding anything new. It's about being able to be in a space where you can let go of everything that's not you, the ego and like the mind, and coming back to that place of presence, because in presence is where we find love and we find grace and our connection back to spirit or source.
Wow. That's so beautiful and so true. And I'm so happy that you brought forward the piece about presence because I think when we were speaking about conditioning, it's like most of our conditioning with our mental fields, we're always either in the past, thinking about something that happened, or we're in the future, thinking about what we're about to do. And rarely do we find that in between space where we're able to just be present. And especially can be very uncomfortable to be present because, like you said, when we're present, then we're feeling everything that's happening inside of us, and then we're feeling and thinking everything that's going on in our heads. And I think that can be challenging for many of us to be alone and be present in our bodies. And then the added layer on top of it is like you said, when externally there's a lot happening, and how do we find that presence even amidst the chaos? And I think that's like another level that I'm still working on because I can very easily, go off somewhere in the forest and feel my presence and feel connected and just, if I remove myself from the world, then I find it very easy to just be. And that's a place I really enjoy. Like I could just go there and just live out in the forest, and I think
We
that's
both sister.
yeah, like many of us were like, this is great. Can I just like live in the trees? Because there's no noise, there's no busyness, there's no chaos. But then when we come back into the world, which we're meant to be here, it's like, wow, how do we cultivate that presence amidst among everything else that's going on? And for people who are highly sensitive, it can just feel very challenging. And so I think what you're saying is it just takes a level of like practice and
Yeah,
willingness.
yeah. Takes a level of practice and also just having no expectations. I think
Yeah.
when I find it really hard to quiet my mind, or I'm in a lot of like fear or worry or just like not trusting, like a mantra I find really really helpful to repeat is just be still and know that I am God. And that I think that mantra can have so many different layers and ways it can be received or perceived. But the longer I'm in a meditative state and I'm just repeating to myself, be still and know that I am God, I'm filled with this sense of safety and peace because it really speaks to me in the sense that I can be still. I can let go of my worries and my fears because I am God, and I am God from the sense of I am an incarnation of God, of infinite intelligence, and one with God. And also from the perspective that the I am is God. And there is this overriding force that is the creation and the flow of all of the universe and everything that exists. So it's like sometimes we can be in this state of our humanness and our flaws and these lives that we live that are filled with so many worries and decisions.
Yeah.
And that mantra, be still and know that I am God, really helps bring me back to that stillness and peace that I am one with God. I'm one with that creation. And also, there is something bigger than the me in this human form that is orchestrating my life. So, from that perspective, it really helps me remember that there's truly never anything to worry about. Um,
Yeah.
when you remember that there's something so much bigger than you that you're a part of and that is really leading your life.
Wow. It's so true, sister. And just as you were speaking about that, I was just seeing like two different ways of interacting with the world. The lens through I don't feel safe and is scanning your environment for unsafety,
Mhm.
especially when we go out into the world and we're feeling, already like doubtful that we're safe and we're, almost like searching for what's amiss or energetically what's off, right? And we can perceive our world through that lens of fear and uncertainty and doubt. But then what you were saying is that when we just remember the I am and the presence of source within you, then we start to perceive that source is in everything and everyone. And then we're no longer scanning for what's wrong, but we're actually searching for the light and truth and love in the world and everyone, no matter what's happening. There's always going to be both. There's always going to be like those polarity energies. And so if we can remember our truth and our light, then we can see that in the world too. We can look for that and we can connect in with that. And I think that kind of elevates us out of fear and more into love, more into beauty, like seeing beauty and grace in the world instead of seeing, fear and separation. So it's maybe like a perception and we can sort of switch or change how we perceive our experiences.
Right. And I was thinking of something as you were speaking that Matt Kahn says, because
Mm,
of course we know that from the highest level, all are one. There is only one infinite intelligence, one source. So the root of all creation is from that one. So he often says things like, oh, like, why is the divine dressed up as someone driving a car behind me, flipping me off? Or
yeah.
like, or like why is the divine dressed up as this person that is so unhelpful to me? Like why is the divine wearing a costume of my landlord who is just being so unfair? And he
Right.
like he always says things like that to just put it in the perspective of how every person you meet is technically just the divine, like dressed up as this actor in this movie that we call life on earth. And when we think of it from that perspective, we can sort of view everything as like a teacher or as an opportunity to be and embody more love and compassion.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's so much more empowering, isn't it? I think at times we go through that like phase where we feel almost like a victim
Mhm.
to our circumstances, or we feel a level of this is unfair, this is unjust, or why did this happen to me? But then there comes a point where we empower ourselves to see, beyond that limitation of this is happening to me and why me, and because we can stay in that, but it doesn't really serve our expansion. in our evolution if we stay there, like we stay in this like victim consciousness. And so just like with what you said, I think it's going to empower a lot of people to remind themselves like, their loving hearts and their presence and their light is way stronger than, those like beliefs or those limitations. And so it's like, how can we bring ourselves back to the truth of who we are? That, I feel like love is our highest form of protection. Even if someone's like arguing in the checkout line and you're like empathic and you're like, oh no, I'm going to take that on. It's like from that like fearful state, we probably will end up taking on, energies because we're sort of in fear or in limitation. But if we remember that I am the light I am, which is another Matt Kahn saying, mantra that he likes, we no longer see ourselves as victims and we actually stand in our power and we recognize that our presence and light actually can change and impact those around us. That, their negativity isn't impacting us. Our positivity and light is impacting them. So from an empowered state of being, it's like, no, like I can be the presence of light in this world. And that no matter what's happening, no matter what's going on, that I can change my environment for the better because of my connection and who I am and that remembrance of that.
Yeah, sister, you're so right. Because I feel that all of those things you're talking about, this idea that the darkness is going to harm us or people's energies are going to harm us, is just another layer of programming, but it's a type of spiritual programming, right? That
Yeah.
preys on the ego, but it's the ego of thinking that we're small or that our light doesn't matter, that we're inadequate in some way. And that is just an illusion and really a way that we can use as an excuse to keep ourselves small and kind of like you said, be the victim. We can go our whole lives putting ourselves in this state of being a victim and thinking the world is out to get us, thinking that
Yeah.
someone's energy is going to harm us or um, everything, everything like that. But really, like you're so right. The fact of the matter is that we need to remember that we are an aspect of source incarnated here. And we have that source light and that connection from our soul. And when we remember our light, when we're conscious of it and we're consciously embodying our light and surrounding ourselves with it, surrounding our interactions with it, that light is all that we need to dissolve and shift any sort of distortions or perceived negativity that might arise. So when we're in that state of thinking something is harming us or that we need to protect ourselves, we're not allowing that light to flow. But when we're in a state of remembrance of that light, it's able to freely flow through us into our surroundings and everywhere we are. And really, it takes care of so many things. It just dissolves anything in its path that isn't in alignment because after all it's the light that brings the darkness to awareness, right?
Absolutely. That's so beautifully put and so empowering for all our empaths out there.
Yeah, right.
You reminded me of something. I had this experience where I was um, with a couple of friends and I was just feeling so elevated, so happy. We walked into a coffee shop and the person I was with, she said, "Oh, just be careful. My husband got us psychically attacked here. So just, like have your guards up and your shields up and just be careful because there's some like dark energies in here." And I said, "Oh, don't worry. The dark's afraid of me." I just had this moment. I was just feeling so happy, so joyful, so in my heart. And when she like came in was like it kind of felt like she was saying like, "Oh, you have to be afraid because like, my husband got like a psychically attacked here." And I thought about that in the minute. I was like, "Actually, I think like they're more afraid of me."
Right.
Like any
Yeah.
energy that's like, trying to come at me, I'm like, I think they're more afraid of me right now because
Yeah, and
I was
it's
just
true, they are when we
yeah.
remember who we are.
And it's not all like I don't always remember. Like sometimes, I'm human and I go through my doubts and I doubt myself, but I just remember in that moment I just felt so happy and joyful and to even hear that comment was just like it sounded silly to me. To me in that moment it's like it felt like check for the boogeyman under the bed kind of thing. And so I think sometimes we can forget the power of just lightheartedness and the power of positivity, and the power of just remembering joy and remembering that connection and how that really is our greatest form of protection and greatest form of superpower to a
No.
lot of energies, if we can truly cultivate that. And, that's been part of my journey is like, how do I cultivate more peace within myself? How do I cultivate more love? How do I cultivate more joy so that I can share that with the world, so that I can have that within myself, so that when I embody it and begin to really feel it and practice, bringing that into my being, then I just begin to be that in the world.
Mm, yeah, that's really beautiful, sister. But I know that that's what I am cultivating and, trying to do daily as well. Because this topic we're talking about of all of these like dark energies and things like spiritual attacks and things that are present in the world. I think very often a lot of us go through that part of our journey where we come into awareness of these things and we think that we're in such a state of high consciousness. We think that these teachings and this awareness is like so high level. And it's like, depending on what group or facet of spirituality you get into, this idea of all these dark forces and being afraid of them very often arises. And it's such a, like, what is the word, it's such an illusion because we feel in those states that we have all this awareness, we have all this like power and um, just knowledge of things. But when in reality, that very idea of knowledge that we think we have is what is keeping us small and what is keeping us contained because we don't realize that our light is really what diffuses those things, and that the very act of thinking that we need to like shield or protect our energy from an attack really just points to very often, I think, our own inner wounds or our own inner beliefs that we are still holding, that the world isn't safe or that someone is going to hurt us. And people so often want to, I think, externalize that shadow and those fears and put it out into the world. But it's like
Yeah.
when you realize from like a deep place within your heart that you are safe and that your home is within your heart, which is full of light and love and that connection to source. Like from that place, you're always in alignment and you're always protected and you're always equipped with the light that you need to deal with any situation that might arise.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, like you were saying about being empathic, it's like going from being an empowered empath from an empath that's living in their maybe their trauma or their unconscious wounding.
Mm. So beautifully put, sister. And yeah, I just really resonate just with what you shared and, definitely experienced that as part of my journey, and was, the underlying energy was fear. Like it just felt like I just felt so unsafe to be here, so unsafe to, even go to the grocery store without thinking, something was going to mess with my energy or like I would need to go and clear for hours. And I think
Hours.
it's like, and it's like, I think that's part of something that we're all navigating is like, those wounds of of feeling unsafe um and then eventually you just get tired of it. Like I think you just get I think like your ego is just like, you know, tired of all of the shielding and all of the clearing and all of that. You just kind of exhausted until
Yeah.
it gets to the point where like I'm kind of over that.
Yeah, you literally get exhausted because if you do that, you'll deplete your life force energy and you will literally get exhausted.
Yeah, which it can become like a distraction because if you're thinking about like how much time you're spending directing towards, clearing things that you don't want, then it's like, what are
Mhm.
you actually creating? Like, what are you actually manifesting if all of your energy and life force is going towards trying to rid things or trying to get rid of things? Right. And so I had such a realization when I was like, I'm focusing so much on this. It's all I do.
Mhm.
And it became a point where I felt like my own light was being diminished. Like I
Mhm.
felt like I had focused so much on the negativity and darkness that I was like, where is my light? Like, where is the joy in being alive and living my life? Where's the happiness? Where's the excitement? Where's the thrill for it? When I felt so much dread just leaving the house? So I think you kind of go through this phase of like kind of being in darkness because it's all you're perceiving. And then you don't realize how much that is feeding it. And so I found when I was able to cultivate my light and cultivate more joy and happiness and excitement for life, I felt like I got a part of myself back that I kind of forgot about.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean, sister. That that's something I've experienced as well. And earlier in our talk, when I was speaking about how to connect back into your soul and your own truth, and I mentioned clearing your space. Um, what I should add is that it's not necessarily an act of trying to like go through and like find things. It's really the act of bringing through life force energy because like I said, you can do that just by sitting on the earth, receiving that energy, that life force that is flowing from our planet. When you're doing qigong, when you're doing breathing, breath is what? Breath is prana. It's energy, it's life force. So just the very act of doing some sort of conscious modality of bringing in life force and that light that is always available is going to bring everything into the body, everything into place. It's going to be able to neutralize or just release anything that you don't need without ever going into that place in the mind of, oh, like, I think I have this person's energy, or like I
Yeah.
have this over here, or I see this like over there,
Yeah.
which is what I think we all do. And that's sort of the trap. So,
Mhm.
mm, yeah, I think the best thing to do is to bring in that light and that life force energy from a place of presence and from being the observer. Because when you just observe and you're bringing in light, you can just sit back and you can just allow it to move through you, and it will just automatically just take care of anything that is not in alignment for you. And it's really as simple as that. You just need to find yeah, the way that works best for you. Like you said, sitting on the earth, just breathing. It can be yoga, just anything that allows you to connect to that light and bring that life force into your
Mhm.
body.
So true, sister. One of the things I just wanted to add with that is I think there is like fear in fully like opening our hearts because of maybe some of our like trauma or experiences or fear of being hurt. And I know that when I'm like feeling funky and I just go and connect like with one of my cats, for example, because I just love them so much, I feel like my heart opens and everything that I was feeling dissipates because I feel like so blessed that I have this deep connection to animals that I have no walls of separation. When I just go and like hug one of my cats, my heart opens. And then I don't really feel any of those things anymore. Like it's almost like when my heart fully opens, it just dissipates and dissolves all of that energy. And so I think there's like a fear, especially when we're experiencing negativity or density, of opening our hearts. It's almost like we do the opposite. We shut down and we close off. And then we go into the mind, and that creates even more fear and separation. So it's like, how do we have the courage to open our hearts when we're starting to feel fear or negativity? Like, how do we begin to embrace and open and not shut down? Because I think when we shut down, it just really creates that situation of what we're perceiving as negative or bad or dark. But what I've noticed is that when I can actually not shut down but open up and not be afraid that I'm going to get hurt by opening, that I actually experience everything that I was fearing dissolve completely. And it's not always easy to do, but I have noticed that.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we all struggle with, is how do we maintain our openness and our our sense of feeling safe and
Mhm.
putting ourselves out there when we've been hurt in the past.
Yeah.
I did a video on that I haven't uploaded yet, about how like you said, we end up closing our hearts, and that also closes us off from the things like we want in life. You know,
Yeah.
it closes us off from the friendships that we might so deeply yearn for, or the adventures, or just even any experience in general. Because when we're shut down and we're in that place of fear and keeping our heart closed, we're not only not open to receive like the love and the sense of safety and light from the universe, but thus it also closes us off from receiving our blessings
Mhm.
and our miracles, because those things are always available, like our the things like we're dreaming of, the things we're wanting to manifest in our life are always there for us. But I think very often we're not seeing them come into the physical because we're closed off to receive them.
So
um,
true.
and yeah, like you said, we do that because we've been hurt in the past, and we're afraid to keep our hearts open. We're afraid that it's not safe.
Yeah.
But like truly, the only way to live a life where we're authentic and we receive what's meant for us is to just keep our hearts open over and over again, matter like no matter what happens, because that's also part of the experience here, is all of these like emotions of like pain and like joy and suffering and love and like grief and sorrow and happiness. We just have to keep our hearts open for everything to like to just flow through,
Yeah.
um, which is hard because we can be, we can be scarred from the past of like fearing that we're going to get hurt again. But
Yeah.
if we can just view those experiences as a step on our journey, because truly everything that arises in our life is always an opportunity for our soul's evolution and to grow and to evolve. So if we can view being hurt or things that might seem bad from that lens, we can greet it with like love and grace and acceptance, and the experience, we can move through it much more easily when we hold that space of love for it instead of fear.
It's so true and so very wise. Um, yeah, I feel like we could speak forever. But is there
But
any final just messages you wanted to share before we close out? Anything that you feel you really want to add in closing?
let me see here. I think that in closing, I would just want to say to everyone that is here on the channel and anyone that might be watching this. Um, that if you're in a place where you are feeling like a bit lost, you're feeling disconnected, you're feeling like you don't know where to go or which way to turn, I just want to give a message of remembrance to each and every one of you, that that sense of being alone or being lost or not knowing which way to turn isn't a permanent state of mind. It's not a permanent destination. It's just one stop along your journey, and it's an opportunity to be able to know yourself even more deeply, to know your strength and your power, to shift out of that and find all of the beauty that awaits you on the other side. And if you're stuck in a place where you feel like there's no light and you feel like life is really, really heavy, um, I would just want you to know that it's not permanent, and that you'll see in hindsight later on that everything you're moving through that feels so painful really holds so many gifts that allow you to be wiser and have your heart more open and be even more equipped for whatever miracles and new blessings and opportunities that are coming into your life in the future.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Chelsea, for that. And I know that will touch so many hearts and be received. So thank you. If you would like to connect with Chelsea, how do we connect with you? How can we further work with you, sister? You want to share? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is just called Chelsea Brienne. Um, and you can also find me at my website, which is chelseabrienne.com. And there you'll just find a little bit about me, um, about my mission here, what I believe, and also my offerings, such as different types of healing sessions and coaching and ways that you can work with me.
So beautiful. And I will link that down below for everybody so that they can access that. I just feel so grateful that you came on here today. I'm so blessed for all that you shared, sister. And I'm so proud of just the beautiful channel that you're creating. I know that it's going to help so many people. And so, to all of our viewers, please do go check out Chelsea and yeah, leave a comment and um, just see what's there for you. I know there's so much, and we could all use the assistance, a little bit of light to our day, a little bit of guidance. So I know that it helps me a lot too sometimes, and so I'm just really grateful for you, sister.
Aw. Thank you so much for inviting me here on your YouTube channel to have this talk with you. Um, it was so nice to be here, and yeah, maybe we'll both see you guys again soon together. Maybe we'll do some more talks like this.
Yeah, yeah. Let us know if you enjoyed today. I know I had so much fun. So thank you everyone for listening, and we sound our heart tones to you. We hope that you have the most beautiful day from our hearts to yours. Namaste.
Namaste.